Today, there's so much in our lives that influences us, our environment, the people around us. Sometimes we don't even know what's influencing us, and that's what we're here to talk about. Welcome to the Influence Today podcast with Chet Tart and Terry Lyles.
Welcome to another episode of Influence Today with Chet Tart and Terry Lyles. Hi, Terry.
Hey, Chet.
Where are we, by the way? I always tell people where we are, and I'm going to let you do it today.
Venture X, PGA Boulevard, Palm Beach Garden. It's a great place. If you've never been here, we walk people through when they do interviews, when we do phone interviews or virtual. Obviously, they don't get to see it, but it's a great place. They've partnered with us. We've partnered with them, and we love bragging about the space here. It's a really cool place to network, and we even had a 21-year-old race car driver here last week, and he was walking around enamored by the place. He goes, wow, this kind of looks like a college workplace.
Right, exactly.
And I'm like, great description. So, yeah, Venture X, they've been great to, be partners with us and we with them. So if you're around, check it out. It's a great place to have an office.
It's the future of the workplace if you're looking for a great place to put your office. And there's many different levels that you can work here at that. Coming up in the next couple of weeks, finally, the book's coming out, Performance Under Pressure.
Yes.
Correct?
I'm excited.
We've talked about it in the last couple of episodes.
We've went through a few chapters.
Yes, we did. And you're about to, when is that? The book is actually going to come out September?
I think it's September 6th. No, it's actually the 12th. I remember now because they're doing it a day after the 11th, September 11th.
And some of the things that are happening is that we're going to do a workbook and we're going to do a virtual training. Is that
That's
correct?
Virtual training and coaching piece.
Explain the workbook and explain a little bit about the coaching that's going to take place. So if you're interested, we have that to offer.
Well, Performance Under Pressure is the book itself. So that's kind of the literary study guide that I use. I use it in corporate America and training. I was in California last week, and I use the title and have been for over a year called Performance Under Pressure, and corporate America loves it because everybody's performing. So I decided to do a book on the same title. And it's just how do we navigate through the pressures of life and work every single day, whatever that is.
Let me stop you a second if I can drop something in here. I notice as I coach people that when they're under pressure, their personality changes a bit. They may be cool, calm, and collective, but they're perceived as totally different under pressure. Yes. Have you noticed that also?
Yes, and in the strict sense of it, it's not that their personality changes because you don't really change your personality, but the influence on that personality changes. And that's the name of our show, Influence.
I was also told that half your brain gets turned off, some oxygen goes to one side. Is it all that true or not?
Well, it's not that it gets shut down. It's just that it's only used when needed. So the right side of our brain is pretty dormant most of the time. It's visual, spatial. There's no time cognition. Right. It's where emotion is logged. It's where we dream out of. So there's a lot of open space there, but it also gives us the ability if someone has a stroke, they actually rehab and stimulate the right side of their brain to do what the left side did. So we were created in God's image to be interesting. So he left the whole hemisphere over there like, hey, we can create over here if you screw up the left brain or if something goes on or if you just want to know where to go to get new, fresh information in this atmosphere, it's the right side of our brain. So, and I actually talk about some of the brain chemistry technology in the book. It's very powerful to understand that. And when you mention personality, the emotional aspect, there's 4 quadrants to this book that we go through, who we are mentally, emotionally, spiritually, physically. So in that emotional quadrant, if I get emotionally hijacked, as I call it, or, I allow someone to hijack me, most of the time I just hijack myself. Somebody says something or something happens and I go crazy. That's kind of what we do. It's not that our personality changes. It gets magnified and enhanced. So every personality has a spectrum of good and bad or light and dark, right? So it's either you're in your best self in your personality or you're in your worst enemy self in your personality. And there's only really 9 personalities, that's out there. So in the study of personalities, we are who we are. We can't change our stripes and our spots, but we can change how healthily we navigate within our personality. So I get into that in that structure of how do we do that at work in our relationships? How do we do that at home in our relationships? How do we do that in our own space within our 2 ears?
So we're going to do a workbook and we're going to do virtual training. So explain to me why I would need that. What are the results that are going to take place in me, my business, the people around me? What will happen?
Well, currently I'm doing this with my former book, Good Stress, and we use it in corporate America now. So I just did this last week in LA. So people would come, they get the book, I sign those books, and then they become their study guide. And the biggest thing that's missing in any learning and sustainability is learning is accountability. And it's keeping people accountable. So we'll go from department to department or compression level to compression level, depending on what your business is. And they meet on a regular basis, whether it's on a conference call or in the hallway, at the cooler, whatever, and say, hey, how did you do emotionally this week? I mean, did you get hijacked? How many times? What was your weirdest hijacking? Somebody cut me off in traffic. I lost my mind. It's keeping that conversation going. So it becomes a cultural thing that we try to do within companies. So performance under pressure, I think, is my best work so far. I hope as I get older and the more I write, I distill things in a more simple way.
How did this come about, the thought process of writing this book?
Because it's what I started calling seminars some years ago, actually. I would call this, the seminar that I do, Performance Under Pressure. And the book I have that I used at that time was called Good Stress. And it was and after a while, I was talking to my publisher, and they're like, why don't you just do a book called Performance Under Pressure? I mean, it's what you talk about all the time. I'm like, it's a great idea. So that's how we got there, that simply. And the subtitle is Cracking the Stress Code, Crack Your Stress Code, and become and live your best self. So it's really just, all of us have a code that unlocks either positive or negative inside of us. And that's where the hijacking comes. My wife can say something to me, and it can unlock a really good code, or it can unlock a bad one.
Is it the same thing as pushing my buttons?
Yes, exactly. You and I are both old enough to remember this, but in school we had lockers, right? And we had the old locks.
They still have lockers.
Yeah, but they don't use the same code. That's probably all. You just headbutt it now, and you look at it. It has retinal scans. But back in the day, we had you lock it, you spin it, go left, go right, go left.
Yeah.
So it was a code, and that was kind of the original thought of, if I could unlock my personal best code, what would that be? And I have a code. You have a code. Everyone has a code. You have a best self, and then you have the worst self code. So I go into that coding, and how do you know what your code is? And there's actually a metrics in it that we work on, and you do actually a survey piece that we will use during this touch pace that we're going to do through coaching and training that helps people unlock their own codes to understand that if I get hijacked, I need to know how to change that and clear it and go back to something else, my best self.
Okay. So one of the results, or one of the things you're going to get by this, is understanding the best self, where to find it, what it is. Because sometimes we don't even know what it is, correct?
Yes, that's correct. Yeah, and a lot of times we don't, but it's how I think, how I feel, what I believe, and what I do. So it's back to mental, emotional, spiritual, physical. So, I can be driving down the road, having a great day, and all of a sudden something happens, and I can go from a positive best self to a negative worst self in a millisecond, 20 seconds or so. Cortisol secretes. I end up in a hijack condition, and it's up to me to change that. It's really hard.
And we can change it like that, correct?
20 to 30 seconds if you know what to do.
That's what I'm saying. So this will teach you.
We cover and it's what I do with fighter pilots for the Air Force, the Navy. It's what we do with NASA training. It's what we do with professional athletes. It's all about understanding the biotechnology of how to monitor what's happening inside of us, see it, and know what to interpret it as. So you can be wearing a wristband monitor, that monitors your heart rate, your breath rate. But most people will see those numbers, and I do this a lot. I'll walk up and go, hey, you've got a wrist device? Yeah, what's your heart rate? They click it, and they go, it's 68. Wow, awesome. You know what that means? No.
Right.
So
I have the same thing.
They have a code. They just don't know how to interpret it.
I have it right here.
Yeah, they don't know what to do with it. So
I look it up and go, is this good or bad? But that's all I know, is it good or bad?
And well, it could be good or bad based upon other criteria. Mm-hmm. Okay? What's your age? What is the condition you're in right now? Are you sitting? Are you standing? Were you just coming up a flight of steps? Your heart rate's going to be elevated. There's all these factors that go in. So in the book, Performance Under Pressure, what I do is I go through those variables to say it's not just a code. It's not just a number. It's not just data. What do you do with it? You have to interpret that. So the coaching side of what we do is interpret that data based upon individuals. So that's why individuals have to go through it. It's not just some mass, relational training, Because you could step on a scale and what your body weight says and what mine says could be exactly the same, which probably wouldn't happen. It could be different, high or low. Doesn't mean anything. Body mass index, BMX, BMI, we call BMX because we don't know what it means. It's like that X factor. You can only go, okay, my BMI is 21. Okay, that's pretty good for a male. But what does that really mean? You see, so it's knowing how to decipher that code. So I spent a lot of time. Actually, the original book title was called Cracking the Stress Code. And I actually have clips on CNN from 2 years ago that was introducing me as the author of Cracking the Stress Code. It's pretty funny. You can look them up on YouTube. But we changed that to the subtitle because I hadn't really thought about it. It was going to be a book. And then it transitioned now, which I'm glad we did, to Performance Under Pressure. But it's still about how do you crack your own code.
So we'll learn how to crack your own code. We'll learn the tools of how to take care of ourselves when that happens.
Under pressure, yes.
Putting us under pressure. And what will be the next part?
Well, the next part is how do you sustain it? That's the trick. So
that's the trick with everything.
The biggest epiphanies that we have in our lives, and as I get older, I learn this more and more, is recognizing something as good or bad in my life. I have to have a recognition, and it has a healthy, unhealthy score. Like a gas tank. Is it full or is it empty, right? And then I have to say, I have to be aware of my fuel tank in my car enough to know when I need to refuel. If not, I just drive it and park it on the side of the road, which a lot of teenagers do. I used to get a call from my middle son, and he said, I'm out of gas. I'm like, what were you thinking? Do you have money? He goes, yep. I'm like, why didn't you put it? I don't know. I just didn't pay attention. That's where most people live today. We're not paying attention to our dashboard. All this stimuli that's coming at us every single day, mentally, emotionally, spiritually, physically, personally, relationally, occupationally. We're getting all this stimuli and this feedback. Most of it's just like, hey, I'm alive. I'm good. I made some money. I went to work. I didn't hurt anybody. I came home. I crashed. I get up and do it again another day.
Because there's too much stimuli coming into
There
our
is too
lives.
much. And I addressed that in a chapter that's techno-stress. And it's how technology positively and negatively on that gas fuel gauge, if you will, is impacting us. And what spun out of this also as a part of this conversation was we created two what I consider recovery manuals. One is called Caught in the Crossfire. And it's really achieving emotional stability after gun violence. It could be a school shooting. It could be a mall shooting. It could be a terrorist attack. I just did a story the other day on HLN about this because there were two police officers who took their own lives within like 24 hours of each other. And they worked in the same municipality as like veteran police officers. And they were asking, how does this happen? So we got into that story, but I was able to give that manual away. It's a free giveaway. The second one is...
Can you go to your website?
You can go to my website.
And get that free.
TerryLyles.com,
Okay.
TerryLyles.
You get that free giveaway.
It's a free download. Okay. Boom. It's like 30 pages. Right. The second one's Caught in Nature's Path. That's when disaster hits. Mm-hmm. Earthquake, tornadoes, tsunamis, flooding, wildfires. There's so much. Right now, we're in the weirdest weather issue that we've had in over 50 years, meteorologists are saying. So you've seen what's happening all over the country. There's fires, there's rains, there's floods in places there's not supposed to be. So we created that second manual as a free download for people as well. So thanks to my
Help me with
agent,
that. What's in that one? I mean, if
it's how to gain emotional stability again, after something happens. I mean, can you imagine if you lose your house?
Flooded or...
We're sitting here right now.
My roof is gone.
Correct. Lightning strikes your house while we're sitting here and everything burns up and your family survives. I mean, you lost things that can't be replaced.
Well, here's the thing with that is that I look at it, I go, okay, we got to get this fixed. But then I have people around me who are like panicking.
Right.
Does it help me handle that?
Yes,
because the environment, as I go back, the influence is influencing me, and I'm noticing my stress level starting to go up because of them.
Yes.
If we all came down to a certain level.
Well, and
it'd be okay.
Both manuals go into that. If someone that we know is a fatality, God forbid, in a gun violence incident, you're never going to get that person back, and you don't ever get over something like that. You learn to live with it differently.
So we're going to do virtual coaching also because I think the books are great, but I've never seen anyone learn how to ride a bike at a seminar.
Right.
After the books, it's great to look at it, but if you were doing this virtually and you were going step by step by step on how to do this, I think it'd be a lot sharper and also you'd get more out of it. Would you agree?
Absolutely. Well,
and
that's
why is that, by the way?
Because we're complex individuals. All of us are. You could go to a gym and work out.
I read all the time about how to work out better.
And if you
That's right.
and you go like, well, how do I work out better? I mean, how do you work out better? I mean, whatever your body does, my body doesn't do necessarily, and vice versa. So you could hand people the best information in the world, and they can start, but they probably won't follow through because they don't know why, first of all. Number two, they may not know how to apply that why to their life as they know it. So everything becomes customized. So coaching is the customization of life experience. So you're living your life, I'm living my life. I can see things in your blind spot. You can see things in my blind spot. And we begin to help each other.
Right.
That becomes accountability.
Right.
So it's about training, information exposure, coaching to hold you accountable to what you said you want to do, and then we grow from there. It's great stuff.
That's great stuff, and this will be coming out sometime in September.
Yeah, it's actually soft launch now, just now actually.
What does a soft launch mean? I hear that a lot. I go, you launched it. How could you soft launch?
Which means you can pre-order.
That's like a marketing term that I hear a lot.
It is, but I mean that's how publishing talks about it. So it's a soft launch, and then there's a hard launch, which means, the soft launch is the book is available. You can pre-order as soon as it's done, which it's kind of done now. But you can order online. The hard launch is when it's in bookstores.
Order online, Amazon.
On Amazon, you can order it from my website. I have a separate site that's called terrylylesbook.com.
Oh, okay.
It has all the resources on it. So there's a lot of ways to get it in this first section of what we call a soft launch. And then as the media picks up, we're going to start doing more stories on it. So September the 12th is the actual release date of the book. And I'm excited to take it into the holiday season and hope to be able to share and help other people. There's nothing like
they're going to need it holiday season.
Feedback.
There's a lot of press.
The craziest of ourselves comes out during the holidays.
Right,
so
right.
It's a good time.
So definitely, if you get the book, give us some feedback.
Yes.
If you like the show, Influence Today, and all the episodes, please give us some feedback. We're looking for that also. We have some feedback that's pretty interesting, and thank you for the positive comments. Appreciate that.
Yep.
And we'd like you to be able to share this with other people. And we are at Venture X, and if you're in this area at PJ Boulevard and Palm Beach Gardens, come by Venture X. It's the future of the workplace. Guarantee that it's a different type of workplace, and you'll like it here.
And these Venture X's are across the country. It is a chain, but we just happen to prefer Florida because we live here.
That's right.
So it's a great place, and I know, Steve and others here are cool with that because they're a part of the same organizational chain. So it's a great place. We love coming here. So it's awesome.
So you go to Terry Lyles' website.
Yep.
It's called terrylyles.com.
That's correct.
And the same with the email. It's the same, right?
That's correct. Well, it's the you can push an info button on there and get to me. And so there's info@terrylyles.com. So it's there, and it goes right to the order. It comes directly to me. So they can get to me on the site either way. So we're excited. So I appreciate you doing what you do to help promote. And I had a call. I'll leave it with this. I had a call the other day from an individual and also an email. And they said, look, I heard you speak and I got your book. And they said, I didn't even really start reading the book after what I heard you say. And then I got into it more, and it started like a mirror image of what you said on stage. And they said it literally impacted me to the point that I went back, ordered more books, gave them away to people in my space, my workspace, my neighborhood. That's what excites me. It's not the selling of the book. It's the getting that information out there. I've spent my life doing this, and there's a lot of cool stories in the book of performers, good, bad, and ugly. I mean, the gentleman who wrote my foreword, he's retired 2-star general from the Air Force, and his story is so raw and so powerful. The editing team came back to me and said, "Are you sure he's okay with us publishing this?" I said, "He wrote it. I didn't tell him what to write." He has such a powerful story about what happened to his daughter. I'm not even going to tell you what it is. It was life-altering. And I've been with this man, training him from Air Force training to the Pentagon to the VA, and he's still active at the VA. Those are the kind of stories we have in the book, and I'm really proud of those people, and just thank God every day that I have. Those kind of people have influenced me in a very positive way.
So we'll get to that. We'll get to the workbooks. We'll get to the virtual training coming up. So if you're continuing to listen to a podcast, we'll give you the information. Or if you want to go to Terry Lyles' webpage, TerraLyles.com. You'll get that information. And thank you. If you enjoyed Influence Today, please share it with somebody and also hit like. Thank you.